Setting boundaries with your adult children has struck a chord with readers around the country. But it's more than just a much-needed book.
It is. It's an entire support group network. It's not enough just to read a book about how to set boundaries. We need support groups. We need to be around other people that have the same issue that we have. We need online community forums, ways that we can connect with other folks that have similar issues. It's an entire community of parents and grandparents that are changing their lives.
See, that's terrific. Well, you say the main problem with dysfunctional adult children isn't the choices they make or don't make, but something else entirely. So if their choices aren't the main problem, what is?
Us, the parents. When it comes to this issue, when it comes to adult children who make really poor choices consistently, and we're talking about drug choices, alcohol choices, lack of work, losing jobs, not committing to jobs, being very irresponsible. Those are problems. Sure they are. And we would love for them to change. But nobody can change anybody but themselves. Parents around this country are trying to change their kids. They're trying to say, you know what, you've got to get a job. You've got to get a life. You've got to change. You've got to get off drugs. All that pointing and you isn't working. The problem is that we have to change. Parents have to change our responses to our adult children. When I responded differently to my son, even though he was doing the same thing, when I responded differently to his crisis and his drama and his ongoing issues, that's when real change happened.
So in essence, by you changing, you help them to change.
Well, sometimes,
instead of just telling them to change.
Not always. The adult children, not all of them do change. Now, many really might come up to the plate when we step back and let them live the life God intended them to live. Some of them very well may realize, wow, I can do this. Some of them may feel a sense of this accomplishment that I can walk that journey without mom or dad coming in to rescue me. But not all of them do. Many adult children don't get that foothold. Many of them don't ever change. But we can. We as parents can change our response to them, how we live our lives, how we grow or don't grow. And we know we can't guarantee that somebody else is going to change.
Yeah, very, very good point. Well, what are the 6 steps for hope and healing you refer to in setting boundaries?
It spells sanity because in this situation, we're insane. It's an insane situation. When you have an adult child whose life is spinning out of control, who is making one poor choice after another. And again, many of them are, we're talking about prisons, we're talking about in and out of relationships, they've got multiple kids that they're, the issues are really phenomenal. It's insane. So I really found in my life that I developed sanity over time. And to get that sanity, I had 6 very specific things I had to do. And the S in sanity is stop the flow of money. That's a real key issue in the enabling epidemic. And it is an epidemic. It's happening all over this country, all over the world, but real specifically in our country. That S, stop the flow of money, and then stop the guilt, stop the blame, just stop, period. When I hear from parents that are in stress, that are in crisis, that are going crazy, it's like, whoa, just stop. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results.
That's right.
So we need to stop. So the S in sanity is stop. And then A is assemble a support group. And this is vital. When you are dealing with issues with dysfunctional adult children, and when I say dysfunctional, let me clarify that. We're not talking about adult children who just kind of, might stray a little bit, might need, just some encouragement or some empowering, or might need, real help once in a while. We're talking about the consistently needy, irresponsible, challenged adult child. The ones really that are breaking our hearts. The ones that just the drug and alcohol component is huge. So when you have a lot of those issues, it's tough to be objective. Very tough to be objective. We've got so caught up in their drama and their crisis and trying to change them that we just aren't objective. So assemble a support group is A, insanity. We've got to be around other people, other parents that can hold us accountable, that can help us walk through these steps. N for sanity is nip excuses in the bud.
That's
Big
a good one.
Our own excuses as well as the kids. How many times did I have to hear that it wasn't my son's drugs? How many times did I have to hear, you know what, Mom, that's not really, my fault? Or how many times do we have to hear, so-and-so did this? How many, I interviewed a woman who said that her son was dealing drugs out of her home. And she knew this. She kept hearing it and hearing it and hearing its excuses. And, she just kept buying them. She kept buying the excuses.
Yeah.
So we've got to nip excuses in the bud. I is implement rules and boundaries. We can talk till we're blue in the face. I can sit here and talk all night long and it's going to sound wonderful. Unless I actually do something,
Right.
it's not worth a hill of beans. I have to actually implement
And they will never
rules.
believe you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
Exactly. Well, and consistency is really important too.
Yeah.
And that's not one of the 6 steps, but that's definitely, I talk about that, quite often in my book. We've got to be consistent. As parents, we've done a great disservice to our adult children by being inconsistent, by not meaning what we say. And often it's out of love. I don't really think that any of us
Absolutely.
parents are going into this saying, you know what, I'm just going to lie. I'm not going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be dishonest. I'm going to screw up your life. I'm just going to, we don't intend to do this.
Right.
And yet, so often we have when we don't mean what we say. That's a tough one. So actually implementing, we need to really implement rules and boundaries. So that's SANIT, is trust your instincts. That woman I referred to, whose son was dealing drugs, the SWAT team broke her door down, broke into her house, ripped up the carpet in her son's bedroom, where they found a floor safe filled with tens of thousands of dollars and methamphetamine. He was dealing meth out of her home. She ended up losing her entire retirement saving, everything, because she had to hire an attorney to prove her innocence. She became an accomplice. They were not going to believe her that he was dealing meth out of her home and she didn't know it.
Right.
And I believe her with every fiber of my being. She didn't know it. But what she did say to me was, Allison, I just felt something wasn't right. I just, something was telling me, there's just, I just knew, but I didn't follow on it. And so often, our instincts is really the way the Holy Spirit will talk to us. That still small voice. So often we'll hear and say, but listening to it actually requires us to do something.
Right.
And requires us to make changes or to confront or any number of things. So trust your instincts is a big one, the T in sanity. SANITY is yield everything to God, which is the number one thing that we have to do when we find ourselves as parents or grandparents of adult children whose lives are a mess. We just can't do anything anymore. We cannot help another minute because we aren't helping.
Right.
We can't get back on that gerbil wheel again. We can't continue to come to their rescue. We can't be God for them. And that's what I found out I was doing. Yielding my son to God was an important thing because he had a journey he had to walk. My son did. A journey, a God-given journey, but I kept coming in and swooping in and stopping that journey. And who was I? I had this light bulb moment. It was like, Allison, do you think you know better than God what he wants your son to live through? Do you think you can do this better? Do you think that you are doing your son any help by coming in and experiencing the results of his choices for him? So and that it really was a moment like, okay, I just God, I just can't do this anymore. And there's something very, very empowering about letting go.
Yeah.
When we let our kids
As
go.
difficult as it is.
Yes.
Yeah.